Hi there, it's Anne here on the Life LDC couch. It is Friday, February 14th, so it's Valentine's Day. I'm wearing a heart in honor of Valentine's Day. And I decided to sit down and record today because I am totally in love with my stash. How did this happen, you say? Just a month ago I was talking about Stash Happy, and that is what has happened. I have taken stock of my stash, I've done reorganizing, I've done investigation, and I've come to the realization that I have a beautiful stash. Thank you to my knit buddy Renee for helping me do that, because she pointed out all of the great projects I have in my stash. So let me just explain to you a little bit of how I came to that resolution, that conclusion, that state of mind, that stash happy state of mind. So welcome back to previous viewers, and hello and welcome to any new viewers. I want to say thank you to all my new subscribers. My subscriber numbers have been going up slowly but surely, and I want to thank you. We're creeping up to 1,000. At 1,000, I will have a little giveaway. I don't really do giveaways. I'm not a business here. I'm just a knitter, doing a knitter diary, trying to help others with my knittery epiphanies that I'm having at this senior's age of mine with a big stash in my basement. Anyway, let's not go there. Earlier this year, I decided to do Stash Happy. I'm tired of being inundated with stuff that makes me feel like I need it, want it, have to have it, when I've already got a basement, not a basement full, but a stash, a significant stash in the basement. I'm a senior and I've been stashing for a while. So I have a significant amount of stash and I want to be happy with it. And so what led me to the whole big stash reorganization was my review of the new Rowan Magazine 67. If you haven't seen it yet, it's on my channel. You'll find it somewhere in the videos below. And one of the designs in there was done in fine lace and kid silk haze. Now, kid silk haze is all the rage right now, isn't it? Put kid silk haze or mohair with anything, but kid silk haze is really popular because it is, frankly, one of the most spectacular mohair silk combinations around, and the colors are gorgeous. So I went down to my stash and I started rummaging around, and I thought, I've got this yarn I could use for that design. I've got that yarn I could use for that design. And gee, I think I've got something that's already calls for kid silk haze and fine lace. And I rummaged that out and I thought, my gosh, Anne, like, why are you thinking about a new project in that combination when you already have a project in that with using those yarns? So I guess the light bulb has finally come on, because I thought, you know what? Let's just get right into the stash and let's do some investigation and let's get some more projects finished up. I'm having a cup of chai tea that I've sort of made a latte with foamed almond milk here. So get yourself a drink and let's sit down and talk, okay? Way back at the beginning of this video blogging adventure of mine, I sat, one of my very first video, I didn't even show my face. I sat with things on my coffee table, and the angle of the camera just took in what I was talking about. And I remember talking about this book, Rowan number 42. Well, we're at 67, so 42. That's 25 books ago. So that's 10, 12 years ago this came out. I've loved this since the day it came out. absolutely love this this cover scarf, a Kaffe Earth Stripe wrap. I was on vacation, and I'm sure I told you this back in the time, but I'm going to tell you again. I was on vacation. This was the book that was in all the yarn stores in the UK, and I wanted the yarn for this wrap. But of course, all the colors that were used in this were totally sold out. And John Lewis was having a sale on Kidsale K's because of the fact that all the colors were out, and they were left with all these other colors, and you know, everybody just wanted these. So everything, I just went from John Lewis to John Lewis buying Kidsale K's on sale. Bought a huge carry bag of it. And I looked up the number of stitches you needed, and I just cast on, and I started playing with combining colors. And what resulted from that was this coat. I will put a picture in here of the whole coat. I love this coat. I wear this all the time. It's not as warm as you might think. It's nice and cozy, but it's not overpoweringly warm. I wear it all the time. I love it, and I keep thinking that I might eventually knit another coat. But the draw of this always was in the back of my mind. And then not that many years ago, I was in my local yarn store, Needle Emporium in Ancaster, and I spied up on the top of a shelf this little plastic bag, and it said Earth Stripe Wrap. I think the tags, yeah, that's the tag. I'm not going to show you the tag because the tag's got the price on it. And I was with a knit friend at the time, and we both bought, there was two of them, and we bought it. And we were warned that there were 2 shades in it. They were now discontinued, and there are good substitutions had been made. It will be fine, blah, you know, okay, we said fine. But no, me being me, I had to have the original. So I scouted Ravelry, went around and bought the real shades. So I have now the real shades for this wrap. My friend started it, decided Kidsale K's doubled, wasn't for her. The little pieces of fiber flying off drove her crazy. So I did a trade. So I now have double the amount that I need for a wrap. So it's been going through my mind. Should I knit a wrap? Should I knit another coat? What should I do? Now, the trouble is the wrap is not as wide. It's way too wide for half a piece, but it's not wide enough to be one piece. Would it be one? What if I made this the back and then knit the fronts just a little bit bigger? Anyway, when I started video blogging, I was happily knitting away on this. And then something caught my eye, and it got put in the basement in a box somewhere in a bin, and it's been there ever since. And because of my looking around and reorganizing it in my stash, I found it again, and I decided to bring it up. And this is going to be my project. It's just long rows of stocking stitch. You do have to be careful about changing your colors, but this is something that I can do while I'm watching TV. And I think the key to loving what you're doing is not always forcing yourself to do something that is distracting to your present state of mind. If you're really intensely watching something on TV, you don't want something that you have to fuss with. If you've got a quiet Sunday afternoon, that's when you want to sit and do something intricate. So you need to have a mixture of projects. So right now I have my Marie Wallin Fair Isle blanket. That's my charted project, which I have to keep my eye on. I have this. I have a sock, one of my sock tubes, and I have a project that I'm almost finished, and I'm it's taking a little bit of thinking about, so I'll get to that in a minute. So, and I know I'm rambling here, but the idea of your stash, you need to keep a good focus on your stash, because you have probably got some really great stuff in your stash. Number one, be honest. I am a stashaholic. Just be honest. I am a stashaholic. Spent a lot of time in the last few weeks sorting stash. And what I did was I have, from the days when I used to sell yarn, I have these 9 big, huge bins. And I had stash on the shelves behind my computer desk and on the side in project bags and everything. So I took it all out, I opened all the bins up, and I started reorganizing it, gave each bin a number. So current projects, I mentioned that I have sort of focused in on a select amount of current projects. So this is the Marie Wallin Fair Isle blanket. It's club number 5 of her Fair Isle Club, limited edition club, 500 members initially. But if you join the next year's club, you can go back and buy previous clubs. So if you want to get into one of the older clubs, you buy into the club next year. I have no idea what's going to happen next year. It was blanket, blanket, sweater, sweater, blanket. This is the first one that uses Marie's, her British Breeds yarn. Absolutely love it. I kept up for the first 2 editions of the pattern. The third one I've fallen behind a little bit because I've been preoccupied with stash, but it's easy to catch up. It's very methodical. I would not say it's a challenging Fair Isle knit because everything is very geometric, easy to memorize. Well, no, not easy to memorize, easy to knit once you get the hang of which yarns you're going to use as pattern and which ones you're going to use as background. Because for example, the first square was a dark stripe backgrounds with a patterned, lighter pattern. And then this one, for example, is lighter background shades with the darker pattern on it. So as long as you get that in your head, this is easy to do. So this is a project that I will sit down and I will work industriously on for a little while, but then I actually do need a break. So another project that I'm working on, and you know, I think you're probably going to say to me, Anne, I remember you saying that you're not one of these type of people that knits the most current phase, you know, the most current popular design. But I succumbed and I have knit a love note. It's in Kid Silk Haze, Cream, and Koigu KPPM. It was that hefty hank that I bought from Koigu. It's 1,000 yards of yarn in one skein. I've only found 1 knot and it's dyed, gorgeously dyed. I'll put a picture in here. And I knit it and I finished it and I tried it on and I liked it. But I knew that in my heart of hearts, in my knitting heart of hearts, it was not a 10. It was maybe an 8. And another personal goal is I want all my finished projects to be 10s. If they're not 10s, I'm going to make them a 10. So I'm going to put a little video in here. This is a little clip I did in once I'd finished this originally, talking about what kind of changes I want to make. So have a look at that. Hi there, it's Anne from Life LDC here. I am not on the Life LDC couch. I am doing something different today. I am doing a video diary blog on my Love Note sweater. It's finished, as you can see. I do love it. I love the combination of Koigu KPPM. I used one of their hefty hanks, so it's 1,000 square. It's 1,000 yards of KPPM yarn hand dyed by the lovely ladies at Koigu. Absolutely gorgeous. I only found 1 knot in the whole skein, and so you're just knitting. I did it with Rowan knit. I knit it with Rowan Kid Silk Haze, and used the color Cream, which took all these colors and just gave them a slightly dusty effect, slightly muted effect. very different for me. Normally I would go a little bit stronger or earth tones or whatever. So this was a big jump for me. Bought the Koigu online, so I wasn't totally sure what I was getting because pictures only show you so much. But I love the skein, and usually I would be paranoid about what to knit with a big skein of yarn like that I just bought. But I decided to jump in and knit a love note because a couple of my knit buddies are also knitting love notes, so we decided to go for it. So here's my finished sweater. It has been washed and blocked, in that I let it dry flat. I didn't do any serious blocking to it. I expected, I'll be honest, I expected the sleeves to grow a little bit more. They did grow. I think they were maybe like there before it was washed and blocked. They have come down a little bit. The neckline, I did not do any decreasing before I did the neckline rib. I just picked up the provisional stitches and did the rib of the neckline. So the cast off edge is what's holding the size of my neckline. I like it a more open neckline like this. I would not have liked it if it was tight on my neck. I'll tell you that, no. The fabric is gorgeous. It's soft. It's warm. I just love the colors. And, I just love the colors. And I love the sweater. I would say right now I love it 8 out of 10. And part of me this year thinks, you know what? I want all my sweaters to be 10s. I don't want to have any hesitation about them. So here's what I have decided to do. I think this sweater on me, if I look at it from the side, I did not put in the short rows in the back to give you that back piece. To let the back hang. So if I pull it down like that, you can see sort of what it would look like. And actually, I'm not minding that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1.5 inches on the front. And do those short rows on the back. Because what that will do is it will give me that little bit of extra fabric on the front that I can then lift and tuck in to my belt. You know, you see everybody doing that. I've got a new belt to try when I finish this. So that's what I want, to be able to lift it and tuck it in. And I also want this to be hanging so that if I bend over, I don't have to worry about it coming up over my belt. So that's 1.5 inches on the body and those short rows in the back. I'm also going to undo the sleeve rib. I'm going to add, I think, 2 inches to the sleeve. And I'm not going to do any decreases before I do the rib, because I want the sleeves to come down over my hand, and I don't want them to be pulled in. Now, when they're longer, I might change my mind about that. But right now I'm thinking longer and no gathering in, just a rib, a nice loose rib, like the way the bottom is. And I think with those 2 changes, I will have a 10. So I'll be back. As they say, I'll be back. So I'll be back with my updated love note. Until then, happy knitting. So I decided that this needed to be longer. And I did. I made it. I unpicked the bottom edge, unraveled the ribbing. I did break off the cast on yarn because the cast off yarn, because I think it had been, put under some pressure, but I left the rest of it there. I added 2 inches, plus I also did the short row swoop on the back. I don't know why. I had just sort of decided I didn't want to do that, but after I had the love note on and I looked at everybody else's projects on Ravelry, I decided to do that. So I have done that, and you will see This has not been blocked yet, but you will see by the yarn, I don't know if you can see it, you'll see a little few rows that are a little bit crinkly. That's the yarn from the rib. And then so you could see it there, from there down. There's the crinkly yarn. Oh yes, you can see it in the light there. And then there is the new yarn that I added below it. And then I did the short rows, and then I did the rib. So I've added a good 2.5 inches. And on the back, see, there it is there. So it's about 4.5 inches. Put it on, it's perfect. So then the next question was what to do about the sleeves. I think what I don't like about the sleeves is I don't think I suit these blouse-y cuff sleeves. They're really cute. I decided that the pooling on the arms doesn't bother me at all. I think it's sort of it's a factor of these hand-dyed yarns. I know some people go crazy about them and have to alternate skeins. I think I would have alternated skeins if it was the kind of hand dye that you might have a different sort of shading on each skein, if the one would be a little bit lighter than the other one, so you'd have to alternate. But because this was just how the yarn came, the way it dyed and the way it lay when it was knit, I decided to leave it. So my next step on my love note is to take these cuffs off, and I think I'm going to knit down another couple of inches, and I'm going to redo the rib, but with no decreases. So my cuffs will be wider. They'll be like this. They'll be wider. They won't, I don't think they'll be quite this wide, but they won't come in. They'll just be cuffs that hang. I like my cuffs, really, my sleeves, to come down to about there. And I think that will make them a few inches, maybe 2 inches longer than the body. And I think that will be it. And if it turns out the way I want, then this will be a 10. So fingers crossed, and let's hope that I love my love note when it's all finished. I absolutely adore the fabric of the Koigu and the Kid Silk Haze. This combination was inspired because of the wrap that I just did, the Kay Jones wrap, the burrow wrap, and I just love that shawl. I wear it all the time when we're watching TV. So wish me luck for my love note. I love the combination of the Koigu and the Kid Silk Haze. I'll just pop that in here. This is all I've got left to extend my sleeves. Because of my stash diving, I brought back out my Earth Stripe wrap, and I decided instead of starting something else, I want to finish this again. I love it, love the colors. It's going to be fab. It's going to be a big wrap. It's going to have long fringe on it. Adorable. I'm learning a lot. I'm paying attention to the way Kaffe does this. So in my coat, I started off putting different colors together, and it's a piece on the back I won't show you. And it was nice, but it wasn't as cohesive as I had expected by looking at Kaffe's Earth Stripe wrap. And eventually I decided to hold one strand of this dark brown Kid Silk Haze with all the other colors. And what that did was it made everything flow together, and it didn't matter what you put together. It looked fabulous. There's areas of this sweater that I absolutely love. Well, even more than other areas, but I love it all. So that was one way of approaching it. The way Kaffe did it here was, there are 4 shades that seem to pretty much always be held with the other shades in this project. Here's my little legend, my shades here. And there are 3 very similar greens I'll just tell you what they are. Jacob, Elegance, and Drab. These 3 greens right here. Along with Majestic, which I don't have any on my shade card, but I will find it. Majestic, Majestic, where are you? Maybe it's attached to my project. It is! Majestic. So there's the 3 different greens. 1, 2, 3. 3 different greens and Majestic. These are the colors that are always held with all these other bright colors, like Candy Girl, like Trance, like Blushes, like Jelly, like Meadow. So when you put all these colors together and hold them with these as your base colors, it makes the scarf very, very put together. It's the different, you know, there's, you know how some people, when they put an outfit together, they just have that knack of putting that little, you put things together that you would never think would go together, but when they do it, it looks great. Kaffe can do that, and this is what I've learned from doing this Earth Stripe wrap. And so when I finish this, and when it's time for another big project, and I decide to maybe take on my Kid Silk Haze box, I just might make another coat, and I'm going to apply this principle to another coat in the future. Remind me about that if I say to you, I just don't know what to knit next, okay? So when I finish the Earth Stripe wrap, I'll start something else. But in the meantime, I'm also going to always be working on a sock, because a sock is something you can take with you. If I think I'm going to have to sit somewhere and wait, a sock is something you can take. And a sock blank, not a sock blank, a sock tube is something that you can, if you're at the right point, you can do that also. So I've been asked on the comments, and I'm going to get to the comments later. I'll call it the mailbox section. We'll go over any comments that need to be answered. But when you have a sock tube, you just have to decide how long you want your sock. So if you get yourself a sock that you really like the length of, and you hold it up with your sock tube, just ignore my needles here. I hold it up at the end. I figure out how much of the sock tube I need for a sock. My previous set of socks I made shorter. These ones I decided to go the whole hog, and I'm going to make them into knee highs. So I've been watching all sorts of videos on sock tube conversion, you know, afterthought, toes and heels. I've made a sock tube playlist, and you can have a look at all the ones that I've highlighted there. The key for a sock tube is cut out the piece of sock the length that you want, and you must be careful to pick up the stitches of the round and then cut the rest away. Not as scary as you might think. Then you put a rib and a toe on that piece, and then you decide where you want the heel. Now, acquisition. I bought this sock measuring thing. It's called the sock ruler. And the idea is, this is sort of designed for when you're knitting your socks. You can slide this up inside your sock, and you can measure how long you've knit on your sock, and you know when to stop. Once I figured out how long I want to make something, I do all my measuring by rows. I don't measure it by a ruler. I measure it by counting rows. But what this sock ruler tells me is that my foot is 9.5 inches long. I stood on it and measured my foot. And I know that my afterthought toe is 2 inches. And so that means my afterthought heel is also 2 inches. So that's 4 inches of the 9.5 inches. So that means I've got 5.5 inches left. And if I measure this completed sock, it's only got 5 inches between where my afterthought toe finishes and where the heel starts. And this is actually still too long. And watching all the sock videos, all the good sock knitters tell you, you must make your sock at least 1 inch shorter than what your foot is. So really, I should be aiming for an 8.5 inch sock. And see, right now, I've got a 9.5 inch sock. Let me measure this for you. Okay. I have a 9.5 inch sock, and I need an 8.5 inch sock. So I need to take an inch out of here. So my middle, this piece between my toe and my afterthought heel, which right now measures 5 inches, needs to measure 4 inches. And that means I need to take out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, possibly 12 rows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this toe off and go back 12 rows. And I'm going to have to do the same thing here. Now, I haven't finished the heel here, so if I wanted to, I could just adjust the spot of my heel, but then that means it would be too long. No. So I have to take both these toes off and back them up 11 or possibly 12 rows. Because I want everything. I want to be happy. I don't want to be putting my foot in the boot and having the heel, this heel part ride up the back of my heel when I put it in my foot in my boot. And that's what's happening right now, and it's driving me crazy. So I'm just going to keep plugging away on my tube sock thing to get the perfect fitting sock so that I know what I'm dealing with. I've got as I showed you, I've got quite a few tubes, and so I'll get there. So I just wanted to mention a couple of little things. I made little notes here of the things that I've picked up from all the videos that I've watched about sock tubes. So, number 1, watch my playlist, watch lots of videos. Have your good fitting sock as a sample. Do your measurements, yes, of your foot and what your toe, your afterthought toe measures out. Sorry, seems that talking about yarn makes me cough. So get that sock that really fits well and measure how long the foot is. Separate your tube into 2 socks, whether it's separate the whole tube just into 2 or measure off what the lengths you are minus your toe and minus your rib. So I could have stopped this sock here, say. That would be my sock, but I'm making long ones. So figure out how long you want to make it. Don't just measure, count the rows. Every 50, put a marker so that you get the exact number of rows. You'll need very fine needles to pick up the right-hand side leg of the stitch. These, I think, are, I don't know, 1 or 1.5, 1.25 millimeters. They're very tiny. You also can just use a thread and a needle to initially pick up the stitches, so that when you pick up around to knit up and make your rib, you either can pick them up directly onto a needle or like a knitting needle, or use a sewing needle and a piece of yarn to pick them up first before you transfer them to your needles. Needles, which do you prefer? Do you prefer double pointed, or do you prefer a long circular needle and do magic loop? I've been doing all my work on these socks with fine double pointed needles. So I have a very, very fine one, and then I also have my 2.25 for when I actually start doing my afterthought heel. I'm considering doing magic loop only because I keep dropping needles in inconvenient places and times, and I have to try and pick them up. At least with a circular needle doing magic loop, you only have one big long needle to deal with, and you're not going to drop it, right? So that's up to you, to your choice. So we talked about the length of foot. You've got to make sure you don't make your foot too long, otherwise you get that heel piece will ride up. I'm concentrating on fit right now. All of this really basically is to get the fit of my socks right. You can apply a lot of this to your hand knit socks as well as your conversion of sock tubes with afterthought toes and heels and rib. So check out my video playlist, and if you've got some sock tubes, check out my video playlist. You can either send away sock yarn to be knit up into tubes circularly cranked, or there actually are some retailers, yarn retailers, who create the tube for you and send it with little mini skeins to make your socks. So I think it's a fun way of making socks without, if you're going to knit plain vanilla socks, you don't have to go through the boring part. You can just do your toes, heels, and ribs and have a nice pair of socks. So I'm hoping next time I see you, I've got a pair of knee-highs to wear. I want these for my next vacation. More about that later. Acquisitions. I mentioned to you about my sock ruler. The only other acquisition I've made in the last 6 weeks or so, since I'm not buying yarn. When I was doing my Love Note sleeves, I didn't want to do them on double pointed needles. I didn't want to do magic loop. Actually, I did want to do magic loop, but I found the big 5-inch tips on my interchangeable needles were quite, here they are. They're quite big, and when you're doing magic loop, you're dealing with these big tips on the smaller circumference. So I decided I wanted shorter tips, so it led me to the investigation of shorter tips. And so for my Love Note, I ended up buying a set of Leica needles. I've never used these before. I'm wrong. I have a set of double pointed Leica needles that I've used, and I quite like them. So when I went to my local yarn store, Needle Emporium in Ancaster, I checked out the short sets, and there was a short set of, I think it was, well, I don't know. I can't remember, to be honest, because I fell in love with these, and I just love these. And the great thing about this set, it goes from 3.25, very unusual for interchangeable needles on this side of the pond. We talked about this before. I got 3.25s of my Knit Pros, but I had to get them from the UK. So it goes from 3.25 up to 6.5. So in my general knitting world, these are all the sizes that I would ever need. So for my Love Note sleeves, I intend to actually do these with a big cable and magic loop them, and then I'll just have the little tips, and it just makes it more comfortable for me to knit. So that's the only other acquisition that I've made in the last little while. So let's look at the comments. This is the mailbag section of the video. So let's look at the comments. In YouTube dashboard, there is a comment section, a comment tab breakdown, so I can look at everybody's comments and refer to them. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through the comments from the last couple of videos, because sometimes the answers might be relevant to other of you who might have this, the same inquiry, right? So let's start. And it's interesting that the most recent comment was from a video that I did way back in May 2018, my corrugated rib demo. And I'm glad to see that people are still watching that and enjoying that. It's one, I think it's either is my highest viewed video or close to the top. So thanks for that. So Rowan Magazine 67 got quite a few comments. Pamela, she says she loves CAFE, and she's still working from stash, so she's going to be a voyeur watching me working from my stash. I wish I could see your stash, because it would be nice to know of the other people who are in the same boat as me that have a lot of stash, and we just need to love it some more, right? So she ordered some tubes from Joanne today, and she's looking forward to my tutorial. She wants to knit once a month, 1 tube a month between or as a break from her Marie and Alice Starmore projects. So she does big projects also, and I can totally relate to that. You need a break from them. So I talked to you about my tube experiences. I'm not ready to do a demo. I'm not sure if I ever will do a demo, because I'm just learning too. So watch my playlist. And I think I forgot to mention, when you pick up the stitches to cut open for the afterthought heel, you're picking up stitches on 2 rows separated by 1 row of knitting. So, and you either pick it up on threads or on small needles like this, but you start by cutting it in the middle, and you work out and undo it. And I just, in a recent video I watched, learned that you should stop 1 or 2 stitches in from either end, because then when you pick up your stitches and knit your afterthought heel, so you're going to knit like that to create this afterthought heel, you will not end up with the dreaded hole in the corner. And I've been picking up extra stitches and then decreasing them to get rid of that hole in the corner. So on this sock, I'm going to try that. I'm not going to undo those last 2 stitches on either side before I knit the heel, and then I'll see how it works out, if I get a hole or not. And this is what I mean about, I'm not an expert. I'm just learning this. I'm totally new to the sock game. I've been knitting big sweaters and whatever, and I always thought I'm going to be honest, I thought socks were sort of what people just knit. They're just on semi-automatic. They're knitting socks. I didn't understand the great joy that you can get from knitting yourself a pair of socks and actually putting it on your foot. So please, I hope you understand that I'm not really the expert. So I'm learning along with you. So check out my sock tube playlist. It's sort of filled with the videos that have the tips that I have been adapting to my sock tube adventure. Cheryl says, I hope you knit that beautiful long multicolored sweater. I can't imagine how long it would take. She's been holding fast to shopping her stash since New Year's, and it feels great. Well, congratulations, Cheryl. I am very, very happy for you, and I'm really glad, and I'm with you. It makes me feel happy to know that I'm going to be knitting from stash. So you are referring to, and I'm just going to bring it up, I know, the Portia. It's the Portia and Allen twin set that you are referring to, the Portia coat. Well, where's the back of it? There's the back of it there. This has been haunting me, and I'm not a cotton knitter, but what if this was done in felted tweed? Light bulb moment. it's a basic, simple design. It's so simple, the patterning design. You could knit this. It's so simple. Trust me, if you're going to talk Fair Isle stranded knitting, it's so simple. So I think that after I finish my Marie Wallin blanket, I'm going to convert this design to felted tweed. I've got quite a stash of it. The main thing would be the background shade. The background shade in this design is a pale gray, so I'll have to come up with a combination. I think maybe there's a pale gray blue color in felted tweed that might be great as a background. Anyway, hold on to that thought, because that might be something to attempt, because I do love this. So thank you for that. Danielle thanks me for my review. She hasn't got the magazine yet, but she's already ordered the yarn for Beauvoir. Beauvoir was the design that got me looking at fine lace and Kid Silk Haze. Beauvoir. It's right near the beginning. Yeah, Beauvoir. Beauvoir is that one. So it's fine lace and Kid Silk Haze knit together. 2 shades for the body, 2 shades for the edging, and then those seam stripes are embroidered on after. It is a gorgeous design. I almost sort of stopped everything because I did have stuff in my stash that I could do that with. I almost stopped everything and cast it on, and I thought, no, we're just falling into the trap here. So I've got things that I need to do, and I'm going to stick to it. That will be there when if I want to do Beauvoir in the future, it will be there for me. Kathy asked if when you sign up for Rowan, the Rowan subscription, do you get the shade cards with the book? And if not, where did you get it? No, you do not get the shade cards. Now, I'm a Rowan ambassador. Rowan sends me the shade card. I have always, but before I was a Rowan ambassador, I have binders downstairs of Rowan shade cards back to the 80s, because shade cards were just one of my things. I loved looking at the Rowan shade cards, especially the old ones. They had some fabulous colors. So you have to ask your local yarn store if you want a Rowan shade card. Ask them, they can order it for you. If you're here in North America and they dither about it, then order it from the UK. If you just Google in Rowan shade cards, whatever. I think, to be honest, that Rowan should include a Rowan shade card as an option with their subscription. And I will make a point of saying that to them. I've said that to them before, and for a while they were offering a Rowan shade card as part of the subscriber package. You could pick a Rowan shade card as your gift. The Rowan subscriber thing has been revamped. It used to be done outside of the Rowan family. The actual Rowan company, it was contracted out. They've brought it back into the Rowan world. They're managing it, which meant a change to their website, and that was a bit of a disaster for a while. Their website's now back up, but it still needs a couple of tweaks. So you never know, you might see that in the future. But if you really, really want a Rowan shade card, they are available. Just ask around at your stockists. Connie says she's a beginner knitter, but she loves the long cardigans and the crochet designs. They're all gorgeous. That's great, Connie. So the Mode at Rowan collection got one comment about the 002 sweater, and she said Connie says it's gorgeous, and thank you very much, Connie. I appreciate you making a comment about that. So let's talk about stash. Bad Mimi's Crochet. She says she's shopping her stash this year too. She's a crocheter who is a beginner knitter, And she says she's very slow at knitting because she's a beginner. When I started crocheting, and I learned to crochet just a few years ago because I wanted to add crochet to there were so many lovely designs that had crochet. I had to learn to crochet, and when you're learning something new, it does take a while, but if you persevere, it's a mechanical motion. Your body just needs to learn how to do that motion. So persevere. Barbara from Knitting I Love, she talks about sorting her stash by weight, and I that sort of rang true with me. That's why I started organizing my bins by weight. And that way you can look and see what you've got. So maybe if you think about something else, you might have forgotten another yarn when you go down to snoop in your stash, and something else might jump out at you. So that's a really good idea. She says she's got some 100% Polish yarn, which is very rustic. And so what she wants to do, she says she might make beds for our cats out of that. I'm sure they'll love it, Barbara. So, she says it makes her happy because it's from her home country. So she wants to organize and sort her stash for 2020. That's her goal. Great, Barbara. I'm totally right with you. That's what I've been doing too. Handmade bags by Diane. Diane makes bags in Quebec. She says she moved all her yarn and sewing material, it was all over the house, into our finished basement. Well, that's what I've been trying to do. It keeps coming up the stairs and I have to keep pushing it back down. So she had to go through a lot of yarn to do that. She found yarn that she'd completely forgotten that I had. So just before Christmas, she gave away a lot of yarn to a lady who takes clothes and toys and gives it to people who need it. So she was proud of herself. Then Diane goes on to say, it didn't even make a dent in my yarn stash, and she's laughing out loud. Well, I could give away a lot too, and it wouldn't be a dent. So, good for you, Diane. Margaret Chess. A friend of hers told her about my podcasting. She loves Marie Wall and she loves Rowan. She has a stash that's out of control also, and she's not going to swear off buying yarn though, because she knows herself, and that's important to know. Just because someone else has decided to do something doesn't mean you have to. I'm not telling you not to buy stash, and I'm not saying I'm never going to buy yarn. But I'm not saying that I'm not going to add to my stash. I possibly might add to my stash, but I hope I do it with more conscience, is what I'm saying. So good for you, Margaret. Do the same thing. So I think I've caught up on comments. If I've missed commenting on one of your comments, please excuse me. This is something new that I'm trying. Thank you very much for commenting. It makes me feel that I am not alone with other people who are dealing with stash guilt. It's as I said about being stash happy, I don't want to feel guilty about my stash. I want to feel happy about my stash. Now I know that in my stash there are beautiful yarns and projects that I am just as enthusiastic about today as I was when I purchased the yarn. And I can now say with all honesty that I am in love with my stash. I'm going to be stash happy 2020. I'm going to enjoy every minute of every stitch that I knit this year, because it's going to be knit with yarns that I loved when I bought it, and I still love them now. I thank all of you who are going to join me in this Stash Happy 2020 adventure. So until next time, happy knitting.